Every company, the coffee on the corner shop, you, me, is doing one thing, and that's going to market. Whether with our products or our services, we're all bringing those to market, or maybe even a campaign or a new product development. Routinely, we're going to market, and the thing I found over and over again is we use the old playbook on how to go to market, how to grow our business, our companies, versus maybe leveraging the new way. I see the old way as cold calls, TV, print, all of that, and I start to see the new way being deep, specific content, podcasts, case studies, social, paired with precise outbound. But most teams don't run it as one system, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. I believe that growth is the operating system that pulls marketing and sales together to achieve the outcome that we all want, which is going to market, which results in growth. This new series on growth explores that operating system while interviewing top growth experts, helping me better connect growth to marketing so I can grow the businesses I work with and work on. I hope you enjoy this series, and I really think there's going to be a lot for you, especially if you've been along this whole journey, because I just keep developing my mindset into that marketing has to lead to some level of growth. One of the main reasons I'm doing this new series is not only for myself to grow in my understanding of growth and connecting that to marketing, but I've just seen so many people in the world that are doing marketing, but it's just not enough. In a sense, if we stop doing 80% of the things that marketing's doing, I don't think the growth of a company is impacted at all, which then gets a very stark truth that maybe our marketing isn't actually leading to growth, isn't helping grow the business, which then my question is what even is it doing then? Because I believe to grow, inherently one of the things you need is marketing, sales, all of those things. In this podcast, this series is hopefully going to uncover what these growth thinkers are thinking about, these growth operators, and really understand how we can tie that to our current marketing. So again, the format for this new series, before I get deeper into this episode, is one guest per episode, or maybe two, similar to previous on marketing episodes. But the first question will be, what job should the growth role get done in a company versus marketing? And then I will ask the same at the end question of, what should we get done in life? What's the purpose of life? What this is not, it's not about how to buy growth or channel only growth marketing. I'll get a bit into growth marketing and the differences. It's not only MOFU or nurturing, and it's not a debate club. While I will challenge these guests, each episode will hopefully bring you one tactical thing along with a handful of theoretical adjustments or shifts in our thinking around growth and marketing. So here are my 3 personal outcomes from this new series, and I hope you can gain similar outcomes. First is to build or to just enhance a practical go-to-market playbook that I can apply immediately in the companies I'm working with, whether that's actual tactics or things to do, or more so just the framing around how to think about it. I really want to improve my go-to-market playbook, capture one experiment or process per episode to use in my own work. So I'm taking something from this guest and actually applying it in my day-to-day. And then as the purpose of on marketing started to refine and enhance my definition of marketing, the goal is similar here, as I will share in a bit, actually next, what my ideal understanding currently, my definition of growth is, but hopefully by episode 50 of On Growth, I have a far more in-tuned and strong definition. Before we get into my working definitions, run the intro. Welcome to On Marketing, a show where we uncover what marketing and growth is. I won't tell you what to think. I'll help you improve how you think about marketing, growth, and life. I'm Jordan Ogren, a marketing strategist by day and a podcast host by night. This was originally recorded on November 3rd, 2025. All opinions shared in this podcast are views of the hosts and guests, not those of their employers or associated organizations. This content is intended for informational purposes and should not be considered professional marketing or growth or life advice. Listeners act on the information provided at their own risk. Thank you for being here. Before I get to what my current definition of growth is, let's first cover what growth is not. When I first came into growth marketing, you could call it, it was from this book called Hacking Growth by Sean Ellis. That was the first time I ever understood or even came into concept with growth hacking. I know it's been around for a lot longer. There was a Facebook 2012 Shamath who was VP of product or VP of growth. So it's not new. Sean Ellis just was able to put words to this thought of growth hacking. But But I believe growth has evolved, has hatched from that original conception, and has grown to be so much more than hacking growth. So, one thing that the growth is not, in my opinion, is buying growth. While paid is an output, it's input, it's not an outcome. So, yes, paid is a key component to running a growth system. It's not about buying growth. Hacks is a horrible way to think about it because we think we can buy our way into it. While, yes, growth is going to be slightly different than brand marketing, growth marketing, but there's this kind of kernel that you can't just buy growth, you can't just buy a brand. These things take long-term efforts, but with growth, you also are pairing these short-term efforts. Again, it's not channel-only growth marketing, so we're not going to go hardcore into how to grow on Reddit or any of those, which could be valuable. But again, it's just remembering that growth marketing isn't growth. The way I'm using them, growth marketing is far more tactical. It's experimenting, which is all built into the growth system. But again, it's not one for one. Growth marketing does not equal growth. Finally, it's not projects or campaigns. It's an operating system. It's the way you think about the work. It's the way you structure the work. So I think that's just a final thing I want to emphasize on is that growth can't be just a project, a campaign, a season of your business. It's an operating way of doing business that you should forever implement, and yes, you will be able to do it differently depending on the size and scale. But again, growth and growth marketing aren't the same, and it's not just something you would do for a season or to gear up for IPO, which I've never had any experience with, but it's something you build into the DNA of the company so you're structured and you're thinking in this new growth way. So before I share my growth definition, I want to just redefine my marketing definition. So while my marketing definition has been to help both the customer and the company you work for make progress with the end goal of revenue, I've kind of tweaked it a little bit more to be a bit, I don't want to say academic, but just a little bit more defensible, one would say. So I believe that marketing's job is to create and capture qualified demand by helping the right customers make verifiable progress in their life and by helping guide the company where we play and how we win with revenue as the outcome. Now, growth. What is growth? How is that different than marketing? I believe growth is turning qualified attention into compounding profitable customer value by increasing activation, retention, and expansion across product, pricing, packaging, life cycle, and loops within payback and trust guardrails. So in plain English, growth makes the promised progress happen and stick. That's the key here is marketing gets somebody in the door. Marketing shows, hey, this is a progress we could. Growth, especially in the world of SaaS, is all about actually ensuring that that comes to life in that it sticks. Marketing makes the promise credible, positioning, narrative, risk reduction, and guides where to play and how to win. Growth operationalizes the promise so the progress is observed, whether that be higher activation, durable retention, and expansion within an acceptable payback period. That's the key here with growth is that, yes, you might have to spend some money, but there always is that payback period that you're trying to ensure, whether that's CAC, all those cool words that you're not paying more for a customer than their lifetime value or what they're able to give you in the short term. Now that you have my marketing and my growth definition, which hopefully after the 5th episode will be far advanced, I'd love to just share the 3 pillars I believe of an ideal go-to-market operating system. The first pillar is this balancing of short-term bets with long-term bets. An important thing is to have cash today. So the short term is something that you can't neglect, and as somebody who is a more strategic long-term thinker, I always lean towards the long-term way, but the short term is so important with growth, whether that be finding out if there's any customers, any prospects that are right on the edge. Maybe there's some customers that are easily upselled. You can maybe remove friction within their buying process so they can buy more, quote unquote. So I think there's this balance then of the long term, which is category, point of view, distinctive assets, durable content, community, partner ecosystems. Those are all the long-term plays, while you also have a lot of short-term activations that you're trying to balance. The discipline here is to protect your CAC, your cost of acquisition, your payback, so don't mortgage tomorrow for today or vice versa. So it's important that while you are betting on the future, you're also making those bets in the present day. What this looks like in the current role that I'm in is some of the short-term bets that we've had is direct outbound, direct outreach to either previous customers who churned in the last 3 years, so quickly trying to understand, or trying to reach out out to new marketing leaders that worked with us but are at new companies. I work for a social media and content agency, a little bit of context. So those are some short-term plays to try to really ramp up revenue in the moment. And then we have these long-term plays, whether it's positioning a little bit differently. So rather for social media marketers, we're trying to elevate more to that senior level marketer, realizing that that's a bet that when they move, they'll bring us with, changing maybe how we do our content assets, making them just be a bit more durable or a bit more resonating with our audience, doing reports in these more long-term plays, exclusive dinners with our target audience. All of these are long-term plays that hopefully will bring money in the tomorrow round, but we're also doing things that can bring money today. The second pillar is this integration of inbound and outbound into one ecosystem. Too many times there's sales and there's marketing, there's inbound and there's outbound, but they're not talking as quickly together, or they're just not pulling in the same way. So I believe that having one message or just messages worked on together for different use cases, for different personas with both marketing and sales is going to allow you to just power your targeted outreach with that content or with just more data points from inbound, from the content that we have. So I really think it comes down to building a bit of an orchestration of how this outbound inbound works, in that there's going to be a handful of activities outbound that are just simply, hey, let's grab coffee, that aren't built around either content plays. Hey, I see you're new in your marketing role. We've built a guide that helps marketing leaders not waste budget. Here it is. So that's that balance. But I think the really key is that you're having them in an ecosystem while realizing there will be one-offs, there will be outbound that can't be tied to content, but the power comes when you have both of them working strong together. And that leads to the final pillar, is that it's not just about having inbound and outbound work well together, but it's structuring the team for the outcome you want and not siloing them. As I open, what we can say is all sales and marketing groups are trying to do is go to market, which at the core of that is to grow the company, grow a product lane, whatever that is. So I see as having one team that's about growth, whether you call it your go-to-market team with sales, customer success, and marketing, or you call it growth. So I think there's one owner, a head of growth, director of growth, C growth, whatever you want to call them, and they own the go-to-market scorecard. They own the go-to-market play. And then you have underneath them, you can have go-to-market engineers, generalist marketers, gen marketers, as Emily Kramer has talked about a lot, and other specialists, whether that's around ads, content. But really, they need to work together so you don't have a head of sales and a head of marketing, but you have this head of revenue, you have this head of growth, head of go-to-market, and they own the entire approach. So you're able to tie the inbound and the outbound, and you're able to dedicate enough resources, depending on where your business is at, to both long-term and short-term. So those are my 3 pillars of my ideal go-to-market operating system. And finally, to end here, why is this important? My hypothesis is that companies will need a go-to-market owner, someone in growth in 5 to 10 years, rather than competing sales and marketing. This is especially true in SaaS, but it goes beyond SaaS. Again, as I open, I've seen so many companies hire a marketer and just have failed to achieve the results. When I say results, I mean growth. Whether that be predictable growth or even shots of growth, they're unable to do it because the playbook for marketers is broken. It's stale. It doesn't lead to growth unless you're able to think like a growth operator. And I would say the same argument is true for sales. While sales is probably effective in the short term, it's not going to build long-term assets that are scalable and that continually bring in people. And if your message, your positioning, your branding isn't resonating as a salesperson, you're out of luck. So I think the future marketer isn't AI, and this might be a bit of a hot take. It's not AI. Yes, they will be using AI to do the work because they have to be a super marketer, a super growth lead. But in the end, I believe in 5 to 10 years, the marketer of that day will be a growth marketer. Not that they'll do growth marketing, but they'll think through the lens of growth first. They'll be a growth first marketer in the fact that maybe they'll be doing some outbound, but they're baking it into this go-to-market, understanding the customer, creating assets, content that then they can share in their outbound. I truly believe that they'll use AI as accelerator, but that's not the focus here. It's more about, am I siloed? Am I just a marketer, or am I starting to creep into this growth space where I can do both marketing and a bit of sales. All right, what is next? One growth episode per month, hopefully. I want to alternate with the on marketing and the book reviews with the end goal to refine my definition and to help you think better about growth and how to integrate that with your marketing. And if you run a business, how to structure your marketing and sales teams around growth so they're actually driving the outcome you want versus just creating cute little Canva banners and calling everybody and their grandma trying to sell them on our business without having strong use cases and strong positioning points. So while I could ramble forever on this topic, it's not for me to talk about. It's for the guests, the experts in growth to come on to educate me and you and help us get better at growth, because at the end of the day, if we're not helping the company grow, what are we doing? Thank you for listening, and I appreciate your support throughout this. I'm really excited for what we have leading into the future, as the first growth episode should come around the early January 2026. So if you have any growth operators you think I should interview, please let me know, and I look forward to the next episode of On Marketing. Thank you for listening. What one idea or topic of conversation stood out to you today? Write it down, share it with a friend, post it on social. The main thing is take action. That's how we go from theory to mastery. We need to practice. We need to put it into practice. Thank you for listening and being here, and I hope you tune in next week.